Hey everybody, it's me, Whimsy, and I'm with one of my dearest friends, Tani, and we're on our way to the SGI Buddhist Center to do a morning gongyo, that's morning chanting. It's something that I do every morning if I'm a good girl. How long have we known each other, Tani?
Is it 2 or 3 years?
2 or 3 years. And what's it like to be good friends with an empath?
Well, when I'm having a bad day, I don't know if I want to call the empath, because she may know.
Do you ever get frustrated with me because I see the other side? I try to I put myself in the energy of the other person.
I think it's a good thing to be able to be empathic, and then the Buddhist practice is to complement the empath with compassion. They're two sides of the same coin.
Right. How long have you been practicing Buddhism?
Since 1988.
Yeah. Oh my God, you've been practicing longer than me. I received my Gohonzin, my prayer scroll, in 1996. So how have I been doing? You've been watching my progress.
You've been breaking through beautifully. I think everybody out on the web sees your beautiful progress.
Yeah, I really I enjoy the practice. It's given me the clarity to be grounded, and I think any kind of practice you can find that grounds you, so that you say, okay, how do I get back to me? How do I get back to my center? Particularly if you're going to be doing work like empathic work, and we all want to be empathic, and I think that our mentor, Daisaku Kedo, has really encouraged reaching across the aisle through the United Nations and just talking to people who may look at the world very different than ourselves. You're not going to lose yourself if you do that. You're just going to gain a different perspective.
Wow, there's so much in what you're saying. And the only reply that I can think of it, and what I've really learned through this Buddhist practice, is the most important thing that I have right now is the person in front of me. So day by day, moment by moment, we can actually choose to make those moments actually really amazing. Even if we're not really feeling particularly amazing at that moment, they actually can be. And that's what I really learned from Daisaku Ikeda and from this Buddhist practice. Like, every encounter we have, even the very, very ordinary, can be very amazingly powerful.
Yeah, I remember when I was in New York, and it was right before I received my Gohonzin, right before I became a member of the SGI, and I was seeing a therapist, and I was dealing with my empathy, and she said, well, you're the wounded healer, you're an empath. And I thought, well, that's horrible. I want to be normal. I just want to be normal. And the therapist said, you're never going to be normal. You're never going to be normal, but I promise you're going to be happy if you stay on this path. And I think I'm probably the happiest person you know at this point.
I think you're now the empowered healer.
Okay, so people want to know if my politics have changed. Who am I going to vote for in the primary? Who are you voting for in the primary?
There's politics and enlightenment, which those can be two different things.
Well, there's the Eightfold Path.
Yes.
I mean, we do have a social contract. We do as Buddhists.
But for myself, who would I vote for? Probably I'm leaning towards Elizabeth Warren.
Woohoo! Another Elizabeth Warren fan. I'm leaning towards Elizabeth Warren as well. We're both registered Democrats. People wanted to know if my politics change or if my political affiliation changes because of the empathy. No, I'm still voting for Elizabeth Warren. I'm still a progressive. It's just that now when I do reach across the aisle, I have a better understanding of, hopefully through my empathy, through my chanting, through my Buddhist practice, I have a better understanding of the other side so that there's less tension. And what I really like about Sensei Daisaku Ikeda is that he spends a lot of time just listening to the other side and really trying to find common ground, even with people that I would never want to be in the same room with, to be quite honest with you. All right, so follow along with Tani and me. I hope we're not going to be late to the center. We're going to go do some chanting for world peace, and then we're going to go eat really good food because Tani and I are foodies, and we have a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then I want to interview you about your own progress through the practice and
my life itself. Yes.
Yeah, because
it's not boring.
She's one of the most amazing people I know, and all right, we're gonna have fun. So
Thank
join
you so
us.
much.
Join us. Woohoo!
Bye bye.
Okay, this is the SGI USA in Los Angeles. You can see we're going in. We're going to be doing a world peace chanting. I found out of SGI when I was living in Jerusalem, Israel, and I read the book I, Tina by Tina Turner, and it inspired me that I could heal my life because she had been the victim of abuse as well, and I was really impressed with how Buddhism had helped empower her through the practice. So I was really fascinated and I wanted to learn about it, and it's been really helpful to me, and I really like the community, and I like, you know, the idea of people coming together and working to create peace. So I'm going to take you inside.
As one which a new journey of self-development and self-reliance began. SGI Nichiren Buddhism enables every human being to bring forth his or her potential based on respecting the dignity of each person's life. The SGI movement seeks the happiness of every human being and the realization of a peaceful society. It is important to recognize that today is the start of a continual process of deepening your faith and experiencing the power of this practice to realize your dreams and overcome any and all hardships. Nichiren Daishonin addresses the importance of persevering in faith when he writes, "Many hear about and accept this sutra, but when great obstacles arise, just as they were told would happen, few remember it and bear it firmly in mind. To accept is easy, to continue is difficult, but Buddhahood lies in continuing faith. The Gohonzon you receive today embodies the enlightened life condition of Nichiren Daishonin. This same life condition exists in all people. Therefore, it is important to care for and protect the Gohonzon by enshrining it as soon as possible and consulting with your local leaders about the best way to practice to enshrine it in your own home." Diana, congratulations once again. With kids. That's gonna be you someday, my friend. That's gonna be you. Oh my. What's her name?
You want to say hi?
Sasha.
Hi, Sasha. Hi.
Oh.
Because we told her. She goes, how did you know my name? She know my name. I was telling her name, silly goose.
What do you think, Tani? Is that good food or what? This is an English pub, and we always like to come here on Sunday.
Looks great.
So what do you think of the food, Tani?
I think the food is wonderful, and I'm indulging myself. This is such a unique place. It's a very comfortable place for all of us here.
Yeah, everybody's accepted. That's what we like. That's how we roll.
That's how we roll, my dear
So you were saying some really interesting stuff about, we're talking about this spectrum of various different types of disassociation and how people who experience trauma deal with it differently and they disassociate differently. And I remember I met you at a Buddhist study meeting and thinking that you were the smartest person in the room. You were around my age, and I thought we could be friends and study partners and we could study Buddhism together. But we were also going through a lot of the same traumas and healing at the same time. Me as an empath trying to integrate from my own disassociation.
And me, as a transgender woman, going through a very, very difficult transition and trying to become whole as a human being.
Right.
And so there was a very close similarity to our mutual struggle. So I think it was no coincidence we met together. And yes, we're both intellectual, but I think more importantly, we both had similar sufferings, though very, very different sufferings, but very similar in a way, because they dealt with strong issues of identity.
Right.
And in becoming whole as a person is really bringing together all these disparate parts that seem like they don't fit together. And so I think that we had a similar struggle together in that we both needed to heal.
Right.
And our mutual friendship is something that I think it facilitated that for both of us. And we both got to a better place.
Yeah, and I think that in the case of an empath will disassociate from the trauma, whether it's child physical violence, because I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. I was correctly diagnosed by the first therapist I went to. But I think in my case, with the extreme violence and trauma early in childhood, I disassociated. And the way I disassociated is I gave up my ego and I allowed love to come in at the time of the abuse. And I cope with it by loving the abuser and bringing love into the experience of, I'm in this situation, it's like a hostage crisis, I can't get out. So
Stockholm syndrome.
Right, so I had Stockholm syndrome. It took me a very long time to see my broken brain as a gift, that my disassociation and the way that I coped with it could be used in a way that could help people.
In other words, it has an enlightened aspect to it, which you're now expressing. I think for myself, I would disassociate.
The thing that I see that's the similarity with disassociation, early trauma, in your case, being transgender, in my case, PTSD and empathy as a survival technique, is that we both had to disassociate for years at a time, and now that we're safe, and we're safe enough to be authentic, it's as if we're discovering the world for the first time. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely I feel that way. I would say, kind of answering the quick answer to your previous question was, in living as him, I felt like an actor.
Right.
And I was propping up this cardboard cutout that wasn't really real, but I was trying my real best to do that. And I was very sincere at doing that, but it just no longer worked. Whereas on the other hand, to actually feel normal as I am is a miraculous thing, but it's also like, oh my God, I don't feel all this other suffering. This is a new experience.
Hey, I have a song for us.
What's that?
We've looked at life from both sides now. That is the Whimsy Anderson song, right?
Okay. Well, my humor is strongly linked to like Monty Python or something like that. And it's like there's this song of The Life of Brian, it ends on always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, thank you for letting me share part of my life, and I'm sure we can delve into these. These are very deep topics, and we can delve into these more and more. But I think I have this really beautiful.
I'm going to let you eat, and then we'll finish the interview. I'm probably at the park.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye. Hello.
Well, that was a fun day today.
It was a very fun day, and I think, it's really important that we have the right friends in our lives. We have
the right friends at the right time. And you had said something. We were talking about how dissociative disorders are a spectrum, with empathy being on that spectrum. Different people deal with extreme trauma differently and disassociate differently. For me, it was fawning. We talked about that. Can you talk a little bit about the ways people deal with trauma, complex PTSD?
Okay, I think in my respect, similarly, I would do is I would say prior to doing all of this, with who you see before you, I was it was a form of fawning that I was a people pleaser, that I couldn't make me happy, so I would get some modicum of happiness by trying to make everybody else happy. So I would like mold myself like a chameleon to any circumstance, any group of people, whether it was sports people or macho people or sensitive people. I would just kind of blend into that group in a way that kind of, I can identify with who you are and I can relate to that. And so I would just kind of morph myself into whatever situation I was in. So, maybe before being who I really am, I would kind of lost track of who I was because I was so busy trying to make everybody else happy but me.
But the interesting thing about a trained empath, they come through the trauma where they've had to learn the skill of disassociating and fawning and loving the monster and everything else that we survived. I think the difference is that for you it took on other forms. You want to talk a little bit about that?
What were the other forms we talked about? You can remind me?
Well, you had to suppress your core.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. So, like I think we said...
A minor detail.
Yeah, minor. Oh my God. No, it wasn't much. I think that I could never be authentic with people.
Yeah.
So when crucial situations would arise, my inner conflict would come to the surface. And so when that comes to the surface, then it's just like, you can't be who you are. You can't react to situations the way you would really like to. Whether it's like, I'm not okay with the circumstance, I don't accept it. Or I'm really great with the circumstance because I'm just who I am and here we are, and that's great.
Which is the death of empathy.
Oh, it is? Is that what happened with me? No, I don't think so.
Well, no, by being authentic and by allowing yourself to be open to love as opposed to just being a chameleon. Mm-hmm. I mean, empathy skills are our ability to put on the shoes of another person and feel empathy, but there shouldn't be a loss of one's authentic self in the process. So I think what I would say to fellow empaths is, you still have to be at peace with you and you still have to live your authentic truth. And for you, it was a really complicated thing because the disassociation forced you to create
like a false persona.
A false persona, right?
Yeah. And so
that's not empathy for yourself. So how can you be empathetic towards anybody else?
Exactly. It's misplaced empathy, I guess. And so now that when I can relate to people that have been through, I think the gift of the circumstances that I can understand people who've been through great difficulty, I can embrace that, but at the same time I can talk with them, straightforward. And not in any way that's demeaning, it's embracing and caring, yet at the same time it's like, there's a better way forward.
Right. And do you feel because you went through the disassociation and the chameleon-like training that you received when you were younger, now that you do have a strong base, you have a strong Buddhist practice, you're a very authentic person, do you feel that you can now use those skills as an empath in ways that are actually empowering rather than... Because that's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's still a work in progress, quite frankly, but because you have those skills of being able to place yourself in the other person's position.
Right.
And being able to embrace, I think the main thing is to meet a person where they are and understand where that person is. And then from a point of view of compassion, to actually bring that up to a better place.
Yeah.
And I think the empathy gives, like I said, empathy and compassion are two sides of the same coin, but both are necessary. Empathy is the understanding. Compassion is actually to say what needs to be said, to have the wisdom to say. It doesn't mean, no, not at all. Compassion is to say what's required for that person based on where they are.
Right, and I think for me, the Buddhist training has helped me hold on to the good parts, the empathy, and those skills I learned to survive early on. But I have learned to also come from a core place where I have a self. For somebody with a severe dissociative disorder, they might have multiple selves.
Ooh, I think that's a topic for another blog.
Right, yes. Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to thank Tani for being my friend and for being on sharing her journey with us and witnessing my journey and my spiritual growth and helping people just know a little bit about my friends, my life here in LA, and some of the reasons why Tawny and I kind of bonded as we
we
learn to live our authentic truths in ways that are empathetic and
unique.
And reach across the aisle too.
Yes.
To people who sometimes don't look like us, sometimes don't think like us, and and eat good food.
And so, thank you to everybody out there.
All right, we'll see you next time. Take
Bye-bye.
care, everybody. Peace out.